Hey guys, and welcome to this episode of the Vidatainment podcast, where in today's episode we interview Benjamin Moore. If you guys do find yourself on our YouTube channel, make sure to hop over to his channel at Benjamin Moore, where you'll see a little bit of his YouTube videos on his Modality Mondays, and talks a little bit of the extra information he's got on the alkaline water or his Kangen machine. Right? Guys can also check out his content on IG. That is Bmoorealive. That's Bmoor alive. You guys can see his IG lives on Modality Mondays. Talks about high frequency, a lot of conscious thought. I really do appreciate the intention behind this post. And of course, if you guys are in the LA area or anywhere around the world, really, make sure to send him a DM and get yourself a high medical grade machine. I'm definitely looking to find one myself. What we put in our body and being conscious of that does give us a step of privilege, but definitely an opportunity for more mental clarity, and that is just a little bit of what we get to talk about in this podcast episode. So go ahead and enjoy today, and make sure to give us a subscribe, right? A little like, and I will see you guys in the very next episode of the Vidatainment podcast. Say hello.
What's up, family? How you guys doing? I'm very excited to be a part of what Viv has going on, and diving deep and allowing people to share their truths and their stories. I think that's very amazing, and I'm just excited to be a part of this. And we have a special guest over here that you guys can't see. Her dog that's excited to be a part of this too.
If she can climb in, she would.
What does the name of your podcast mean?
So, good question. Mm-hmm. So, Vidatainment, maybe a lot of people know me as Vita, which Vita in root stands for life, means life. So, life. Tainment, the other part, it's, deconstructions of entertainment. So, life entertainment brought to you to wherever you are. Now, life is so subjective, The original idea of Vidatainment, and I feel like it's always going to go with me wherever I take my adventures, is to document these moments as I create my reality, my life, but also to get eventually to my really biggest dreams. Having a backlog of all these conversations, the people who I've connected to, the experiences that are worth a story, and ultimately I feel that we're all a world. You are your world, I am my own world. And being able to hear that's how much more entertaining can that be, like real life. That's
awesome. I don't remember I heard this like a while back, and just talking about like how our own worlds, like it's so basic to say, but when I heard it, trying to wrap my mind around it, I was like, it was just so profound. And it was that we're all each our own universe. Like, you imagine how big the universe is. It's infinite. We're all our own universe, and you get to pick and choose who you let into your universe. And the fact that you can give somebody that gift is like, there's no price tag on that. It's like one of the most amazing things in the world to me. And when you really think about that, it's like, it's powerful, how much energy we all control, that we're made of. And we had talked about earlier being very specific on who we lend our energy to and who we let around, because again, it goes back to how powerful we are, and like knowing, once you tap into knowing that's the power that you have, where you create your own universe, your own being, you create your own reality, you start to really be more sensitive to the energies that are around you and who you choose to let into your world, into your universe. And I just think that like when you really start to like think about that, it's like, whoa, it's a trip.
I agree. Mm-hmm. I agree. And the most interesting thing about that, the word trip, I feel like we use it often when we're trying to describe like a moment that you have to like follow through in order to experience, and life will constantly trip you.
Right.
And constantly trip you.
Yeah.
And constantly trip you until you finally learn not to go in certain directions and not to connect with certain people. And it's not about being exclusive. You know, I think having an exclusive circle, I think it's ideal, especially if, you know, as we realize when we're growing up, and this could just be me, you know, maybe as children we want to have friends, you know, we want to have connections, we want to meet people, we want to, you know, find our place in this world. But I think as we start developing ourselves, diving deeper into our world, the one we want to create, the people we want to connect ourselves with, it is more important to be selective, you know, and it's a little bit different because I was raised with this mindset of you only have acquaintances in your life, and it took me a while to realize that that is true to some degree. It's hard to call everybody my friend as much as I'd love to.
Right.
The world can be my family, but the whole world is not my family.
Right.
Like my real family is like the people who I surround myself with, the people who bring me love and energy and help me preserve that, and I can share that with them. But I'm never going to refuse a helping hand. There's a difference, and
right.
I think kind of understanding what that means to me, it's like brought a lot of sense to, especially when it comes to community.
Right. There's that quote where it's friends are the family that you choose, because I mean, for me specifically in my journey, like I have friends that I'm way closer than any blood in my family, and I think that my definition of like family is loyalty. Loyalty goes a long way. If I can depend on you, if you're there through the thick and the thin, and you're showing up all the time, even just reaching out just to check in, a 2-minute phone call, hey, how you doing? Like it could be real brief, just hey, I'm just checking on you, all right, I gotta go. I mean, that goes a long way in my book, you know. Who's there looking for you, who's there seeking you. You know, it feels good to be around people, I guess, right? But what happens when you're around those people and there's no substance, there's no like realness, there's no people that really care about you, they're just around to be around. And I think that you're correct, like, you know, we're all family technically in the world, but what's your definition of family, really? You know, what do you consider, what do you value in relationships with people? You know, like what is it? And for me, I think loyalty is the number one thing, and just honesty. That's what I look for. So yeah, I agree with you.
I love it. So jumping into loyalty, I feel like when we dive in deeper to being loyal to ourselves, and finding that loyalty within oneself comes from like a lot of compassion and purity, tapping into purity, right? And there's a lot that we can take from the world that represents purity, and I think one of those things is the basics. Like whenever life is going crazy for me, all I do is just focus on the basics. Am I sleeping well? Am I eating well? Am I breathing? Am I drinking enough water? Right? So it does lead me to like alkaline water, alkalinity, finding this source to water. I feel like water is such a powerful substance, and it can teach us so much, from standing still to resisting high temperatures to evaporating to, you know, preserving things in time, you know. So what is your relationship with water, and how has you know, Kangen water, am I pronouncing it right? Kangen?
Tomato, Kangen water, Kanye West water.
Kanye West water.
Yeah.
Well, first let's start off, like, where did you learn about it, right? And like from there on, like, how is connecting to this water taught you purity in life, or alkalinity, and transcended into your life? Because like I feel like it's all really connected.
Right.
I think that's where your site, like, I'm interested in that.
For sure. I'm going to answer your first question on what is my relationship to water as a whole. And first off, I'm a Cancer, so huge water sign. I've always loved being in the water, like being in a pool, being in the ocean. I love being in the ocean. All the mineral, and I'll go into that in a second. I've always been told throughout my life, like people are always like, yo, like you just kind of like fit in, like it's like people like literally be like, yo, you're like water, like you just like fit in wherever you are. Yeah, and I say all this to say like these are signs sometimes if you really tap in and listen to the universe talking to you, and knowing my power and just where I'm at energetically as far as being able to like control energy and boost energy and feel other people's energy. I've really tapped into like I'm the water man, I've been an athlete my whole life, so always drinking water, but I was always the friend that had a gallon back home. We got Poland Spring back there. Always had my gallon of Poland Spring water, like always like just drinking water. Even though I was partying, like I was the one the next morning always hungover, but always getting right with my gallon of water. So I've always had a major relationship with water, like whether it was like consciously or just it was the vibe that I was on. So you had brought up Kangen water. For the folks that don't know what Kangen water is, it's been life changing. Essentially, there's a Kangen machine which makes different pHs, and it's the only medical grade water ionizer. I'll call it a water ionizer just for the usage of this video. But it's the only medical grade water ionizer in the world, which means you can travel with it, which means the water's medical grade. So if something's medical grade, it's usually going to benefit your health. And for my journey with it, I've fluctuated through weight a lot in my life. I've been 270 pounds twice, losing it all and putting it back on. My first transition, dropping the weight, it took me a while. It took me probably like a year and a half to get back down to like 220, 215. I put the weight back on, got to 270 just through life, and I got to California. It was 250. I started drinking this Kangen water, and my transition down and was probably about 5 months. It took me to get back down to 210. Right now I'm 190, and I started drinking Kangen water about 2 years ago. And I don't BS anyone. Like I had multiple modalities that I was doing also to help. Like I went vegan, but I was drinking the water before the other stuff kicked in. So I went plant-based. I stopped drinking. I got sober. I had a really long run with alcoholism and drug abuse, so I had to cut that out as well. Excuse me. And eventually, when you find something that makes you feel good, you want to share with other people. So me just leaving Connecticut, coming to California, I'm talking about this water that's doing all these things, and everyone back home is like, "What you get in a pyramid scheme already? Like, what's going on?" And I still was like, I knew what was going. Like, I could feel the water. So I'll share, because this is a big part too. How I found the water. So I moved out to California, and I moved in with a family friend that had a machine. And she was like, "Oh, I can't wait for you to try the water, blah, 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 blah." I was like, all right, I'm going to be living with you anyway, so I'm going to try the water, right? So I drank the water, and the first 3 days, like, I was on the toilet nonstop. Like, I was having bowel movements like crazy. I was peeing nonstop. Essentially, I was just flushing everything out of me. My energy, I felt like I was drinking Red Bulls all day. Like, I had constant energy, and I was sleeping better. So those are the first 3 things I noticed right away. And what's in the water that essentially charges your cells and the electricity aspect of it is something called active hydrogen. So there's certain springs all around the world. There's one in Lourdes, France. There's one in Mexico. There's one in Switzerland. And we look at these springs that the indigenous people are drinking from. Like there's a 100 tribe. It's an Aboriginal tribe that they're still going strong, and their average lifespan is about 120 years old. So what happens is they drink from these springs, the other springs around the world. People are lining up and waiting for hours to get access to this water because it's healing them. What's in that water is active hydrogen and electricity and energy, essentially from nature, like lightning, the minerals from the earth, the dirt, the mud, and it's adding minerals and active hydrogen to the water. And active hydrogen is essentially electricity. It charges your cells and it charges your molecules. So that's where I was getting all the energy from, sleeping better, all that good stuff. So I went through this transition. It was amazing, telling everyone about it. Yeah. So I go back home, and since I can travel with my machine, I bring my machine home with me. And my brother's a diabetic, and he's been a diabetic since the age of 11. He's 24 now. And the medication that he's on, sometimes it dries his stomach out, so he can't have bowel movements. So I had him for he'll go 3 days without having a bowel movement. So I bring the water. He starts drinking the water. tells my mom he's using the bathroom nonstop. My mom's very stubborn. Shout out to Linda out there. Mama Bmoorealive. And so she's stubborn, so she didn't drink the water my first time home. Saw my brother's reaction, so something had like sparked in her mind, but still hesitant. I went home the second time, brought my machine again. My brother's drinking the water again, like he was waiting for me to get home, like, and then he went to a doctor's appointment, and the doctor said that his blood levels, his sugar levels were the most normal they've been in years. So I was like, in my back of my head, I'm like, I already know what's up. So my mom, right before I leave to come back to California the second time, she goes, "Hey, I just want to let you know." Like, she was drinking the water. She didn't tell me. She goes, "I didn't." She goes, "I didn't have to take my acid reflux medicine the whole time you were here, and it was because of the water." Wow. So fast forward, my mom got a machine. Her acid reflux is good, or she doesn't take her acid reflux medicine anymore. I know people that have had cancer have drinking the water, and probably 2 months later their cancer goes away. I know people that have been on dialysis. They say you can't get off dialysis. They drink the water, get off dialysis. I know people that are about to get their leg amputated from this, like, basically cellular destruction because of their diet. We give them the water, their cells recharge and rehabilitate, and they don't have to get amputated anymore. So it sounds crazy, and I know it does, because we're so programmed not to believe in technology that's here for us. Technology can break you down or build you up, and there's certain technologies like Kangen machines that can build you up, and we have all the power inside of us that we need to heal. And I think that that's the most amazing part of, whether it's the Kangen machines, whether it's like just eating healthier, whether it's doing yoga, whether it's just all these modalities that like are in our spirit, and people feel called to do them, but maybe they're like scared or ashamed or nervous because it's too hippie, or it's against the cool norm. And it's like, screw the cool norm, you know? Yeah. The cool norm is listening to all this BS rap music about drugs and all this crazy music, all these crazy things we see in entertainment now that are essentially getting people killed and having people kill themselves with slow deaths. So yeah, I've just really embodied this health and wellness lifestyle that I'm on, because it's been so amazing for me. I've been able to help so many people that are looking for knowledge and looking for answers, and the fact that I can be a part of someone's life in that way, it's like, it's amazing. Like, I put money in people's pockets, which is like cool, like it's always nice, like making people happy, but changing people's health, there's like no words for it, you know. Yeah. So it's been cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah, thanks.
Wow.
Thank you.
Just knowing that you're like, this helped me, I'm helping my family, like, I gotta take this home. You're like there's no doubt in my mind that this is doing something. And then you're just seeing it all around you, and I'm sure, like, just the way that you speak about it, that this is your passion. You know, you've dove in deep to this water.
Yeah.
Where do you, I'm sure you must have some insight based off, you know, your research, your connections, and some sense, you know, we're all experts in our own fields. Where do you feel that, how do you feel the world can advance with this type of technology? Like,
well, what's going on right now is actually I'm cultivating, there's already like watering stations, which is cool, around where people can go and fill up on the water. And actually there's a headquarters in Torrance, and most of so the name of the machine is Kangen, tomato, and the company that makes the Kangen machines is called Enagic. So there's different Enagic. We're in 22 countries right now, and there's at least 10 Enagic offices in the US, and there's one in Torrance, like 20 minutes from where we are. And pre-pandemic, you could go and fill up on the water for free. Like, it was like a 2 or 3 gallon max, and you could go get the water. No one's there like haggling you about trying to buy anything. You just go fill up on water. And I saw that, and I was like, whoa, like, it's a Japanese company. And when I look at the Japanese culture, Japan is one of the very few blue zones in the world. Blue zone is somewhere where the life expectancy is usually significantly higher than other places in the world, based on their standards for living, based on how they treat their people, based on just the overall like health and wealth of the people. And I've worked for a Japanese company before, so it was like pretty interesting how this aligned again. So to answer your question, how to make this like, you know, more accessible for people is having people like buy machines, like Kangen machines, like they would buy like a toaster oven for their house. And that's kind of where it's headed right now. It's huge in Japan. Like the Kangen machines are in like every hospital in Japan, like, and it's only been in America for 40 years, so less than probably like 1% of the population knows about it right now. But a bunch of the athletes are getting into it. Conor McGregor just bought like 6 machines. Floyd Mayweather drinks the water. Tom Brady drinks the water. All these celebs drink the water, and it's like, what do they know that you don't? They just have probably a little more financial access, but that's not even true. We all have financial access, so it's just expanding your mind to be able to manifest things for you that are gonna better you. You know, like if you want a new car, if you want a new TV, you're gonna make sure you get that, right? How about investing into the machines range from about $2,000 to $5,000. So in hindsight, to me, that's really not that much for something that's gonna last 20 plus years, and it's very beneficial for your health. Yeah, and there's like financing plans and things like that. But me and one of my friends were working on some business deals right now to get our own like watering stations in different places in California right now. So like that, if you find a distributor, like just getting water from them and just really tapping in and like, you know, figuring out how to get access to the water, because I can talk about the water all day, tell you all the benefits, but it's another thing for you to drink it and try it. And the water works 100% of the time. So like the things that I hear, like someone drinking the water for the first time, like it's cool to hear people's reactions, because it's like this is what I was telling you about, you know, and people feel it for themselves. So yeah. I would say water distribution centers and getting a machine so you just have access to the water.
Yeah.
Because the water has, again, we'll go back to electricity. So the longer that the water is out of the machine, the less of electric charge it's going to have. So it's better to get it straight from the source, like getting anything from the source, like getting fruit straight from a tree, or getting a battery right from the charger and putting it in whatever device that you're using. It's the same thing, getting the water straight from the source into your body, and it's going to have more of an effect for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And for example, like and correct me if I'm wrong, the alkalinity comes from the pH level.
The alkalinity of the water would be based on the pH level. And the machine makes 7 different pH waters.
pH waters?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I found out a little bit about the machine probably just about 2 years ago or so, and even and you make so much more, you make a lot of sense when you say one thing is like talking about it, knowing the benefits of it, versus actually having the water inside of your body, right? So it was about a year ago when I actually drank it for the first time. Like, it just made sense. It just made sense. Like, a lot of the clarity, there was a lot of mental clarity that I wanted to have for myself, and it had a little bit to do with alignments in time, because I was trying to detoxify a lot of my body. And I think as humans, we forget that, you know, we're composed out of water, so it's so important to constantly digest it. But I felt I just felt content and not, I didn't feel the urge to drink a lot more. Now this was during a personal 3-day fast, so there was a lot of things that kind of went behind that, but just having access to it just made it feel like this was something like really, really privileged. So I, you know, like the fact that you're talking about being able to have it more distributed amongst the community, I think that's amazing. You know, having access to clean water in certain places in the world is like, it's such a mess.
Right.
It's such a mess. Like water wars around the world. The fact that people don't realize that when we drink water from a water bottle, we're not actually really paying for the water. We're just paying for plastic. and these gigantic companies that are distributing and attempting to help out certain communities in times of disparity, which of course if they have no clean water, it makes sense to package it and put it somewhere, send it to a community in need.
Right.
But most of the time it's a beneficial charity event.
Right.
You know.
Right.
What are your thoughts on something like that?
I was actually going to bring that up earlier. It's like we're 75% water, right? So a lot of the times I look and like I laugh because I had like the programming that has happened a lot. Like one of my best friends, my boy growing up, like he always had this thing. He'd be like, he hated water. He was like, I'd rather drink juice or like Gatorade and stuff like that. And we laugh about it now, but it's like, it's not that funny because if I look at our pH, right? Our pH is 7.3, which is the same as the ocean. How do we know that that is a living, sustainable pH? I look at the ocean. There's animals in the ocean, right? There's dolphins, there's whales, there's fish. So that means that there's enough oxygen in the water for them to breathe, right? So if we look at a plastic bottle, and if we tested the pH of the plastic bottle, most of these plastic bottled waters are going to come out below 7.3. So what does that mean? That means if I took a goldfish and put it in one of these plastic bottles, the goldfish is going to die. Why? Because there's no oxygen in the water for it to breathe. And if there's BPAs that we know about, like we know that there's BPAs, but people are still drinking plastic bottles of water. And by the time you get that water, it's been sitting in that plastic bottle for probably 1.5 to 2 years. And half the time, the way that it's transported is the sun's beating on it. So now the sun's hitting the plastic, and even more toxins are going into the water, right? So I look at that, and again, if you're drinking a water that's below 7.3 and you're putting it in your body, you're gonna essentially, even with alkaline water is not going to change the pH of your blood significantly. It may be like a 0.000000023 or whatever. But that's the difference between healthy and unhealthy, right? So I used to I had a homegirl back home to nurse, and I had a chemistry teacher come at me, well, alkaline water is a fraud because it's not going to change the pH of your blood. I never said that, so I don't know why people come up with that argument. But my thing is, okay, you say that aspect, but what happens when you're drinking acidic beverages like Gatorades and sodas, and you're drinking those consistently? What happens? You get diabetes, you get heart disease, you get certain illnesses. Why? Because those substances are so acidic that you're making your blood thicker. What happens when you make your blood thicker? It doesn't allow for your blood to transport nutrients and oxygen through your body the way it's supposed to do, which leads to, again, certain diseases. So like you said, the fact that there's a spiritual warfare that's been going on consistently for hundreds of thousands of years, and right now it just happens to be in everyone's face more. And we have technology, we have this age of information where we literally have our own fates in the palm of our hands. Why would you continue to trust governments, higher officials to take care of your health when they're literally, some of them are going on platforms and talking about that they support depopulation and that they want to see depopulation happen for the only thing I can think of is control, because they don't really care about the overall fate of most of humankind. So I say all that to say, I think it's very important to understand that we have the access to these things that can help us. And a lot of the times we block our blessings, we block ourselves from being able to gain access to these things because of fear. Fear of lack of finances, fear of lack of understanding, fear of stepping out of your comfort zone and just trying something new. I look at these vaccines, this whole vaccine situation. Yeah. How do you go and get a vaccine that these higher officials are telling you to get when they won't even release the ingredients that are in the vaccines?
That's terrifying.
Like
for me personally.
you're so scared of something, some catastrophe, which was the coronavirus, right? For the government to be able to break the rules. If you allow the government to break the rules to push the agenda, they're going to continue to keep pushing the agenda and breaking the rules. Yeah. Not for your safety, but for whatever agenda that they have. And I wholeheartedly believe that because I've seen it throughout history. I've seen it so many times, especially being Black, African American, and Native American of Native descent. the things that they've done to my people, to your people, and it's like, I'm supposed to sit here and trust them to care about my health all of a sudden? No. Get out of here. So I'd rather take my power and my health into my own hands, which I have done. And man, I just turned 30 years old, and people are like, oh, do you feel 30? I'm like, what is 30 supposed to feel like? Because I feel amazing, you know? And I'm surrounded now, like when you're on this frequency, you attract, it's energy. This whole thing is energy. So you attract the energy, the plane that you're on. And I attract great people like yourself. I attract great people like our tribe, or just people just being in certain situations where, bam, like we're talking about the same thing or the same ideas. Why? Because people are tired of this game that's been going on, and it's here. Like the spiritual revolution is here for people to to tap into. And the more you do it, like you said before, you jump in the water, you're gonna get wet, you know, and you're gonna keep going, because you're gonna keep wanting more. You're gonna keep wanting to better yourself and better people around you. So, yeah, I think I answered like 20 different questions right there. Yes, but it's just something I'm very passionate about, because I'm tired of seeing people getting played. I've had so much unneeded death and disease in my family. I've had so much death and unneeded disease in like my friends' families, and I'm just tired. You just get tired of seeing it over and over and over. And it's cool to see, actually. Like, I have little homies that are like 19, 20, all getting into yoga and meditating. I'm like, what? I was like, I wish I was in that your age. And then I have my mentors who are like 18 years older than me, and they're like, I wish I started at your age. So it's cool to see that this is happening younger and younger. Yeah. And just to touch on one more thing, do you know who Crazy Horse is? Crazy Horse? Yeah. He's not talked about as much as he should be. He's a very prominent indigenous chieftain of the Lakota tribe. Okay. And there's a book called Black Elk Speaks, which is a very good autobiography about Black Elk. But I'm going to talk about Crazy Horse. And Crazy Horse, and shout out to the ancestor, he was powerful. He had a prophecy which was the same as the Hopi prophecy, the Indian prophecy here in the African Hopi people. So the fact that, this is another thing too, I'm going to piece all this together, because this just came in my head. Okay. The fact that we're told constantly throughout history that everybody was separated, but you look at all these cultures and there's so many similarities. Look at hieroglyphs, you look at like cave paintings, and all the civilizations were saying the same thing, but they keep telling us we were divided. And why do our history books, why, like the era that we were in, they tell us like all these lies of division, and our people were savages. We wanted to be like, there's some books that say we offered ourselves to be slaves to the Americans and stuff like that, or to the Europeans. Yeah. And I look at that and I'm like, why do they get away from the oneness? Because the oneness is where the power is. Like, we're all one at the end of the day, and divide and conquer has been a tactic that's been used throughout time. So that's something to be aware of. But to go back to what Crazy Horse had said, was he had a prophecy which was 7 generations from when he spoke, there's going to be a tribe of rainbow children that are going to come back to the earth and heal the earth through their works, through their frequency, through their vibration, through healing the world. And right now is the 7th generation from that prophecy. And I look and I'm like, so many like people were like on this, like, are still like on this higher elevation tip, and then boom, the pandemic hit. So to me, it's almost like those powers that be, I call them the ops, like the opposition, the ops. They knew that this moment in time was here where they had all the power over here, right? And everything's a pendulum. So now it's got to majorly shift over here until it balances out. And right now they're trying to stop the pendulum from dropping to swing to the other side. And for everyone that's on like their healing tip, or just like looking for more knowledge and like uplifting, like keep going. Like, it's the only thing to do. Like, no matter what. I remember everyone was talking about how bad 2020 was because of the pandemic, this and the third. Well, guess what? You made it through. So that's how strong you are. You can make it through some pretty bad stuff, you know? Seriously. So, yeah. Wow. Yeah. The awakening is real. The awakening is real, and it's so important. I think that if you have the opportunity to find that time in your life right now to focus on what you need to in order to heal,
this is a moment. This is the perfect moment to start healing by writing things down, healing by listening to your own thoughts, by meditating, by drinking things that aren't going to just shift your energy much more than they need to, like added energy that is not necessary, added preservatives. I know in day and age it's like we can have an excuse, but quite frankly there's so many resources that we can tap into, that we can allow ourselves to find those resources to bring more tranquility and peace and purity into our own lives and start healing, because this age is of healing. No matter what era you are in life, like I've been talking to a lot of people, and I've always attracted older crowds, since I consider myself a bit of an old soul.
Right.
A lot of people are saying like, it's interesting how your mindset is. Like, I'm like, it's amazing. And a lot of people are in the 30s, like in their late 30s, early 40s, like already going into these really deep healing journeys. And it feels like they're going into their next phase in their entire lives. And I'm like, that's amazing. That's empowering. Like, we want to feed into that. We want to feed people's healing journeys a lot more by coming together in deeper community. And you're totally right. If you were to lay down all the religious books down in one place, you can almost symmetrically find so many significant likeness. There's similarities. A lot of the gods came from one place. They all have certain roots. They all have certain patterns. There's numerical numbers that repeat themselves again and again. And I believe if you connect some form of spirituality, religion, science, and earth, and just general histories and different chapters, that you can probably just piece it all together and just realize that, I don't think anyone really knows what they're doing. No one does. If we think we do, then I think we've lost this quote unquote game or matrix that we're trying to fight, right? But secondly, as long as we're searching, we can find more answers. But we have to be really careful of where we search. The information that we put into our mind, into our psyche, because that's what we're sharing. It's like this huge telephone game, right? And that's what we emit. And I think when we believe a truth and we spread it enough, it becomes a whole movement, right? And depending on as you mentioned, the pendulum, right? If we're all growing in this healing movement, then that's something we can transcend and spread out in such a high frequency that the whole world can start truly healing,
right,
and come into unity. But if we're constantly pushing back, which is gonna happen, resistance. Pushback, resistance is the biggest lesson that we all need to learn. Like, lessons, they're gonna happen inevitably, and we need them, whether we like them or not. We have to be placed back into a position to learn again, to relearn. Like, that's why we're up in the morning. That's why we're rising. That's why we're coming up. We're given another opportunity to begin again.
You're a creator.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We are creators of this own world, of our own existence. We are a universe in our full sense, and I believe as long as we're feeding that universe within, we can continue to share it and grow. And just kind of coming back around, diving really, really deep, because I feel like I got to hear much more of what's inside of your brain, and I feel like there's always something that I could possibly miss. But just in case, is there maybe a question you feel like maybe I didn't tap into? I know maybe you didn't expect anything, but if there's something that maybe there's on your mind that you're like, you know what, like, put this all together, in the end of the day, like, I just want to put this out here.
I would just say to the last thing that you said, talking about this spiritual text, I don't claim any religion. I believe in God, the one true living God, the creator of like everything in existence. There's one energy, one source that we all came from. That's what I truly believe. But to what you were saying about similarities in this spiritual text, is there's one golden rule and there's 3 ways, and that one golden rule and the 3 ways to get more connected to other people, yourself, and source are literally in every spiritual text. The golden rule is treat others how you wish to be treated. Simple. And the three modalities that allow you to tap into yourself, which allows you to tap into source, which allows you to tap into others, like your fellow humans, is prayer, fasting, and meditation. And when you do those three on a consistent basis, your whole life starts to change. I'm laughing because I don't think there's been a gust of air that came through until I just said that. No, I was just saying, like, that was a trip. Not Shay. But when you combine all three of those and you do those on a pretty consistent basis, like your whole world, like you just start to see things differently. You have people that are drawn to you because essentially you're connecting yourself to other people on a certain spiritual, energetic wave that you can't really describe, but you can feel. And people will begin to seek you because you're somebody of value. You start to become more of a person of value. And that's another thing is like, don't chase to be successful. Don't chase success. Chase to be a person of value. And that is when success comes to you. And I think that's pretty important to remember. And the reason I say all these and speak on these things the way I do is because I'm doing all these things and it works. I used to think all this stuff was so corny, like all this stuff sounded so like cliche, but this simple stuff is the things that work. And the reason that sounds corny is because we've been taught that these things are corny or taboo or whatever we were told to think. So yeah, that's about what I got. Prayer, fasting, meditation, ask for what you want, your morning affirmations, like be your own best friend, speak to yourself the way you want to be spoken to. And man, things will just, people will start moving away from you that don't serve you, and the people that you need to be around will just start coming out of the woodworks out of nowhere. And it's been cool. It's been cool to see. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for allowing people to express themselves and share. I think it's very important for us to be able to share our testimonies and things that we go through so we can all heal as a collective and talk about maybe one thing that, you know, listening to one of your podcasts and like hearing someone talk about something that's like, whoa, like I'm going through that, and think anyone else would talk about that or hear that is very important because it allows people to share more of their truths with people. So thank you for allowing that to happen.
Thank you. Thank you. And I definitely feel like as long as we're open to asking more questions, or we're open to the idea of asking more questions, then we realize that the world has a lot to answer. So stay curious always.
Right.
Stay connected to your inner child always. Don't take life so dang serious, because as long as immense and beautiful and extended as it can feel, it's so limited.
Right.
Like the physical life that we get to live, like maybe 10 years, which sounds magnificent. You know, as long as you're lively, I mean, you can kick a ball around. I've heard of a 103-year-old man that can drive, you know. It's possible. Anything is possible.
It's very possible. That's a whole other story in itself.
That's a whole other story.
Because people were living way longer than that back in the day. So.
And the time that we get to share here and really, really tap in is so important. So I will definitely have tons and tons of resources provided inside the podcast details. I actually break everything down on my own time, and I'll be pulling a lot of its and bits and pieces to make sure people can find you. And aside from what I can put together, how can people find your content? How can people, tap into what you're doing? Because you do some amazing stuff on Instagram. I love your Modality Mondays. They're great stuff. Look forward to them, honestly. And I think, you have your own version of, a podcast. You're getting to sit down with some amazing people. I was excited to ask you some questions, get you on the platform, and
That's cool. I appreciate
good to break up people's minds down a little bit more when you're collecting information, and it's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Bmoorealive, BMOOR alive. I do Modality Monday videos where I share modalities that have helped me. I interview people to let them share their medicine and things that their modalities that they've tapped into to help them. You can find me on YouTube at Strive the number 2, Bmoore, Bmoor, and my number is psych. But yeah, that's where we're at. So
awesome
yeah.
sauce.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you, people.
I really do hope you guys enjoyed today's podcast episode. Like I mentioned, please make sure to check out Benjamin's socials and come back again. Our podcast episodes are coming out depending on a lovely day between Wednesday and Thursday. Next week we will be interviewing a very special guest. You thought I would tell you? Well, stay tuned to our IG at Vidatainment Podcast, and you guys will definitely find out. Have an amazing day, and I will see you guys soon.